Hello and thanks for tuning in again. This week was really jam-packed for me because it was the last week before my PTO starts and there was a lot of stuff at work that I really needed to wrap up so that other colleagues don't have to take care of it. What that means for me this week you will find out in a second, and as usual I just say thanks for watching. Again, as a quick reminder, I'm doing the Weight Watchers program, and in Weight Watchers each food has points assigned to it. I have 44 points per day, additional 28 points per week that I can use if I like, but I try not to touch them. I should always aim to use up all daily points, but can save up to 4 points which will then be taken into my weekly allowance. And I can also earn points for physical activities. For instance, every 1,500 steps earns me a point. But now let's get started. I started Sunday with 3 eggs and a mandarin, both 0 points. Then I had 2 bread rolls with 3 points worth of low-fat butter on it, 12 points. And the cold cuts on it just added up to 2 points, so 14 points for the breakfast. I then headed out to get to the polls because there was a redo of an election that didn't went as planned last time around. So I went out and did my duty. For lunch I really felt like having nacho chips again, so I dug in, which cost me 20 points for the chips and 3 points for the cheese dip I used to go along with it. In the evening I just had another can of Pichelsteiner Topf. As you know, this is quite point conscious and just cost me 4 points. But then while watching TV I succumbed to my need of having some snacks and had 6 points worth of chips. This all added up to 47 points, 3 more than I was allowed that day, but I also earned 1 point from walking, so I still had to borrow 2 points from my weekly allowance. On Monday it was bread rolls again, 9 points for that, 2 points for the low-fat butter and 1 point for the bacon on one half of it. The rest of a cold cut came in at 0 points, so this breakfast is 12 points. For lunch then I had some chicken donuts, which is basically just a different form of chicken nuggets. This helping came at 17 points, and since it was just half of what was in the package, I had the second half in the evening as well, another 17 points. So this day added up to 46 points, and since I didn't walk at all, I had to borrow another 2 points from the weekly allowance. Tuesday started with bread rolls again, as so often, 13 points for this. And by the way, I will not always mention fruit or vegetables I had if they have 0 points. I might not always film them, I might not always mention them, but I will have them quite constantly. But then? Today you catch me on an unexpected shopping trip, because I'm about to get a present for my sister. And you might ask now, wait a second, didn't your sister had her birthday last week? And you would be right, but unfortunately I was ordering her presents at Amazon and they were supposed to be arriving the day before her birthday, but they didn't. And the app was showing me all the time that they were still in transit and I had to wait, and the date never updated, so it still said expected delivery the day before my sister's birthday. And then today all of a sudden I got a text message saying, hey, now it's too late to pick up your packages and they will go back to Amazon, because I had delivered them into an Amazon locker. But since this locker is right next to my house, I was just heading over and hoping to still meet the delivery person. And I did, but unfortunately due to a stupid process, once they have scanned it back in and it was cancelled, I couldn't get it, even though it was lying right in front of me, which was a pity. So now I had to reorder everything, but when I tried to do so, to add insult to injury, I noticed that one of the presents wasn't even available anymore and was out of stock. So that is why I headed out to buy it in a brick and mortar store, which is, I guess, something I should have done in the first place. But let's see if the other presents are also available here so that I don't have to order them there. I'm about to find out. Well, I only got 1 of 4 items, but fortunately it was the one that was out of stock at Amazon. So the rest I guess I have to reorder. But, well, I just need to tell my sister she has to wait a few days more, unfortunately. The good thing though is that she is a very kind and patient person, so she didn't even push me on it. So it's not a biggie, I guess. It is a pity though that I have to just reorder them at Amazon, because they were just not available in a brick and mortar store. And I was in one of the biggest toy stores in Berlin, so
It says a lot about those stores that they don't have that much of a choice and a subpar backstock. So, well, I guess Amazon is getting money from me again.
Afterwards for lunch I indulged in a guilty pleasure, which is ramen, and this is my favorite brand and my favorite variety, because it just has the right amount of spice to not be too hot, but hot enough. However, this small helping still comes in at 19 points, so this is why I don't have it that often anymore. Therefore I went with something more light in the evening and cooked myself up a soup made out of corn, mushrooms, chopped tomatoes and used some broth as base, which was the only thing that actually had points, 3 of them. The remaining 9 points I had this day I invested in chips to have something to eat while watching TV. And as I earned 2 points from walking, I could even put 2 of the 4 points I borrowed from the weekly allowance back in. Wednesday started with bread rolls again, though this time the Swiss variety that is called Schweizer Weckli. They are a little bit darker and have a different taste, but otherwise it's more of the same. 12 points for this breakfast.
I took the opportunity to head out because the last days I wasn't doing that. I was just concentrating on wrapping up my work because starting next week I have an extended PTO, so I am out of office for quite a while on vacation, 6 weeks. And for that reason I was pushing myself to really make sure everything is wrapped up nicely in a bow so that nothing is remaining for other colleagues to finish off. What that meant was cutting down on my walking time, but today the weather is just too nice to not head out. As you can see, it's quite sunny. We have 7 degrees, so that's the reason why today I take a walk.
I also came across a fox again. And as you might see, if you look closely, he seems to carry something in his mouth. And it turned out to be a pack of cat food, of which I later found the remains. That day me and the fox were crossing paths again, but this I will show to you in a separate video along the line. When I came back home I took the rest of the soup because I only ate half of it yesterday, but since I want to give it a little bit more substance, I threw in 10 points worth of pasta, which ended up being quite a helping, so that filled me up quite well for the rest of the day. As I still had a lot of points left for the day, I allowed myself a little snack, 7 points, and in the evening I had a granola bar and even a beer mango lemonade mix, which I like to have sometimes but usually don't drink alone. But somehow you need to get rid of the points, right? 13 points overall. I just need to make sure that this does not become a new habit. This all added up to 42 points, so I could save 2 points, and with 3 points I earned from walking, I even had now a surplus of 3 points in my weekly allowance. Thursday I had to head to the office, but more on that later. So I had breakfast and lunch there. I had quite a heavy breakfast with a bread roll, but they didn't have fat-reduced butter, so 10 points for that alone. No light cold cuts, so 9 points for those, 2 points for a little bit of OJ, 5 points for half a bratwurst, and 1 point for the serrano bacon. Fortunately, neither the melon nor the scrambled eggs or the fried vegetables had any points. But still, this is a massive 27 points breakfast. Therefore I took a lighter lunch where I had a little bit of tofu on rice, again with cooked vegetables and pureed peas and stuff like that. I only remembered filming it when I was halfway through, but you can see only the rice has points here, so 4 points for this lunch. And as at work currently our water dispenser is not working properly, I had an apple spritzer in between as a snack.
So I just was in the office because I had to hand in my travel expenses report because we have to print out something. I don't have a printer at home anymore, and without that I will not get paid my expenses that I have advanced, and that is for my Dublin trip a few weeks ago, and those costs were adding up to 1,200 euros. So I of course want to have that back. And that is why I'm here, even though I am heading into my vacation in 2 days. And I still have a lot of stuff to do, but I wanted to make sure that everything is covered on my financial side. So I headed into office quite unexpectedly today. As you might have seen, I also had my breakfast here. And I was meeting up with some people, which was nice to just chat with colleagues that I have not seen in quite a while. But now, because When I came here, I planned to walk through the forest again, but it was 0 degrees at that point because I was coming in here at 8:30 in the morning, and now we have 7 or 8 degrees, which is quite comfortable to walk. So I will now walk through the woods. As you have seen, I took the bus because it was coming the same moment I was passing by. I was planning to walk through the woods, but then my laziness won, because it's still not that warm as I noticed when I was walking the first steps there. But I guess I already was able to put some steps in, so should be fine. Well, I wasn't able to really capture the driver of the bus. I just wanted to show you on camera because he is one of the greatest jerks that we have as bus drivers in our town. Because no one in Berlin right now is asking to see your ticket. No bus is doing that. Of course, when I got in, he was asking me to show my ticket. I guess he was aware of the fact that it would be quite a hassle for me to get it out because I obviously was carrying a lot of stuff. But he still was asking me, and then when I showed it, he was also asking me to scan it, which again, nobody in Berlin is doing because either they don't have scanners or their scanners are not working. So he made me jump through those hoops, and then at the next stop, everyone was let in the back door without showing anything. So that is the drivers on our line on the 620 bus going to Dry Linden for you. They were the greatest jerks before the pandemic, and in a way it is comforting to see that that hasn't changed.
And when I was back home, I just had a salad, which you know comes at 10 points, 8 points for the 2 tablespoons of oil and 2 points for the herb mix I put in. This all added up to 45 points, but I also earned 4 points for walking, so I could even put 3 more points into my weekly allowance, stocking it up. Which is a good idea because I might need it tomorrow, as you might see in a few seconds. On Friday, my sister and I were going to see Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And we were planning to go to a restaurant before the movie. So I just had a banana to start off the day, which comes at 0 points, and then Pichelsteiner Topf again, which is, as you know, only 4 points. Which means I will have 40 points to eat in the restaurant. However, the public transportation was crazy that day, and all the time we planned to have for the restaurant was spent there, so we only had time to go to Burger King, which I didn't even mind that much because I like it, and it should have still fitted into my daily regiment, if only I would have sticked to a Whopper as usual. But they had another burger there that looked quite interesting. It was called the King's Selection Champ and Cheese Beef, which, looking at the ingredients, should have had about the same amount of points than the Whopper, which comes in at 19 points. But this beast was coming in at 34 points. I had it with onion rings that also came at 10 points, and the Coke Zero with 0 points. So that restaurant outing was 44 points, which is not that bad, but since I didn't know I was already exceeding my daily limit when I was going into the movie theater, I also had some snacks there. 10 points worth of chickpea chips. So at the end, this whole day cost me 58 points, and with the 3 points I earned from walking, and with the points I had saved over the week into my weekly allowance, I still had to use up 5 of the 28 points that are my weekly allowance. On Saturday I didn't feel like bread rolls, so I went for porridge again. And as before, I was using almond milk, which only comes in at 1 point for half a liter, to make sure that I don't use too much points on this. But since I think that the banana flavor in this brand of porridge isn't really popping, I also threw in an entire banana as well. So this whole dish comes in at 17 points. And as I really enjoyed the chicken donuts earlier this week and was offered it to a reduced price because the best before date was coming up soon, I had those for lunch again, 17 points for half the pack. Then somewhere in between I had a Tretz chocolate bar as a snack, which I didn't thought would come in at 12 points, but it did. So having already used all my daily points, I went for a small salad without any oil in the evening, for which I used almond milk as a sauce base and just threw in 1 point worth of herbs. So the whole day added up to 47 points, which means I again had to borrow 3 points out of my weekly allowance, which means I have used up this week 8 of my 28 weekly points, which isn't too bad, and I hope that will pay off once I step on the scales tomorrow. We will see in a few seconds.
Okay, full disclosure. Today is already Monday, because I filmed a video yesterday that was supposed to go at the end of this video, but for some reasons I pressed the wrong button and it turned out to be slow motion. It wasn't HDR, it wasn't even full HD, so I had to reshoot it. But to capture it in a nutshell, I lost 800 grams, which is almost 2 pounds, which I'm quite happy with. So I guess maybe it was the stress because I wasn't walking that much this week, but I don't complain, and I hope that next week will turn out the same or even better, because now I have a little bit more time. I have already wrapped up everything. I am now in PTO. I have 6 weeks that I can spend just on reflecting on what to do with the next years of my life, and maybe focusing more on actually losing weight and how to do that. But whatever it will be, you will find out over the next few weeks. But until then, I'm just saying, I hope you also had a nice and successful week. I hope the next week will be great for all of us. And until then, I just say, enjoy your time, and I hope to see you back when the next video drops on this channel. Thanks for watching. Because I had delivered them into an Amazon locker. What the hell?